What's going on YouTube? My name is Wyatt and today we are going to be talking about the M50 Mark II as well as some other Canon rumors. But first, I realized something the other day, and that's that I'm not a real YouTuber yet because I haven't shown you guys that I drink coffee. So let's go make some real quick. Before you guys start absolutely blasting me in the comments for putting ice into my hot coffee, I prefer to drink my coffee after I make it and not have boiling water poured down my throat. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the good stuff. According to Canon Rumors, Tech Radar, and a couple of other blogs out there, Canon is planning on releasing two new EOS M mirrorless bodies at the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021. These bodies are rumored to be the M50 Mark II and the M5 Mark II, or the M7, whatever you want to call it. I personally think it's going to be called the M5 Mark II. That would just make more sense. You have the R5 and the R6, so why wouldn't you have the M5 Mark II and the M6 Mark II? But starting with the M50 Mark II, there's two big features that are rumored to be included in this camera. The first is uncropped 4K with dual pixel autofocus. If you own a Canon M50, you will know that the biggest hindrance of this camera is the 4K mode. Yes, it has 4K, but it has terrible autofocus and it has a huge 1.6 times crop that really makes it hard to use the 4K for certain occasions. I'm not gonna say that the 4K is completely unusable because I do think there's a few special use cases that you can get out of it, but it would be nice to see uncropped 4K with dual pixel autofocus in the Mark II. We've already seen it added to the M6 Mark II, so I don't think it's that far-fetched to think that the M50 Mark II would include this. The second big thing is image stabilization, or IBIS for short. If you don't know, in-body image stabilization is basically where the camera itself will move the sensor to counteract camera shake. It's similar to the image stabilization that you have in your lens, and if you pair a lens that's stabilized with in-body camera stabilization, you can get some really smooth footage handheld. This is a big deal, especially for beginners who may not have a budget to go out and purchase a gimbal. They're still going to be able to achieve nice, smooth shots without having to go out and spend any extra money on other accessories. And I must say, even though I love my M50, if the M50 Mark II includes both of these features, that's gonna be hard for me to say no to. But Canon's not just stopping there, they are also talking about upgrading the sensor inside of the M50 to the 32 megapixel sensor found in the M6 Mark II. So basically, to me, it sounds like the M50 Mark II is going to be an M6 Mark II with an electronic viewfinder, an articulating touchscreen, and in-body image stabilization. And I can't tell you how many times I've thought about upgrading my M50 to an M6 Mark II, but those few things have held me back. So seeing all of this in an M50 Mark II, man, it'd be hard to turn down. However, Canon's M7 or M5 Mark II is rumored to be even better. So the M5 Mark II or the M7, whatever you want to call it, is rumored to have that same 32 megapixel sensor, uncropped 4K with dual pixel autofocus, in-body image stabilization, and dual card slots. On top of that, the previous M5 was more of a professional body because it has more buttons and dials on it, and that's really another complaint I have with my M50 is the fact that I only have one dial to change my manual settings. Dual card slots and extra buttons and dials don't sound like it would make that big of a difference, but if you are trying to get into professional work, these are big things. The last thing you want to do is go out and shoot a wedding or some sort of event and then get home to realize that your SD card failed and now you have none of that footage. You're not going to have a very happy client. In addition to that, if you are trying to get into photography, having those extra buttons and dials are going to make you faster at capturing images, which will obviously help you be a better photographer. So even though these may seem like small features, they can potentially play a big role in being a better camera. And between the M50 Mark II and an M7, if both of these cameras come out and all the rumors are true, As much as I love my M50, I think I'm gonna have to go with the M7. Of course, I would still hang on to my current Canon M50 to use as a B cam, so I still get to keep a nice smaller camera because I would imagine the M7 is going to be a little bit larger, but man, that would be an awesome camera. As long as, you know, it doesn't overheat. But Canon's not just stopping with 2 new mirrorless bodies, they're also coming out with 5 new lenses for the EFM line. Now this is kind of a big deal because for the last couple months since Sigma came out with their 3 fast primes for the EOS M line, in my opinion, Sigma has completely owned the EFM line. I mean, Canon has a couple of nice fast primes like the 22mm f2 or the 32mm f1.4, but I just like the price point of Sigma's glass a little bit better. Now, even though Canon is finally giving the EOS M line a little bit of love in terms of lenses, I'm kind of disappointed with the results. So the 5 new lenses rumored to come out is a 15mm f2, a 52mm f2, a 64mm f4 macro lens, an 18-45 f2.8 to f4, and a 100 to 300 f5.6 to f8. Now, right off the bat, you can definitely tell the 15mm f2 and the 52mm f2 are direct competitors to Sigma's already existing 16mm f1.4 and 56mm f1.4. This would kind of complete Canon's trio of fast primes, but number 1, f2 isn't as fast as f1.4, and number 2, if it's anything like their existing 32mm, it's about $100 more than Sigma's version. And for $100 and you get a slower lens, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, Sigma is technically a third party, but they've been making quality glass for a long time, and I'm perfectly happy with the quality that I get out of my 16mm f1.4. And then you have the 62mm f4 macro. I guess that's a cool lens. I'm not really into macro, so I don't really have an opinion on that lens. And the same thing kind of goes for the 100 to 300. It's nice that Canon's coming out with another telephoto for the EFM mount, but I'm, again, just not that excited about it. And then you have the 18 to 45 f2.8 to f4, and this lens makes me so mad. It doesn't make me mad because that's a necessarily bad lens, but this lens could have been so much better. Imagine if this lens, instead of being f2.8 to f4, was f2.8 all the way through the zoom range. That would mean that we finally have a fast zoom lens for the EFM mount. That's like the biggest hole in the EFM line, is having a fast zoom lens. Whether it's Sigma or Canon, neither one of them really have an option for this unless you adapt Canon's EF glass. And this lens could have been so good. If it just had a constant aperture of f2.8, it would be a no-brainer for me. But the problem I have with it is I can see this lens easily costing around $500. And for that type of money, if you add just a little bit more, like $100, then you can go get a Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8 constant aperture. Yes, you can't zoom in quite as far. 35mm isn't as far of a reach as 45mm, but for me personally, I get way more value out of having a constant 1.8 aperture. I'm sure there's people out there that this lens is going to be absolutely perfect for, but to me personally, it just sounds like it's a little bit better of a kit lens. And if Canon is so big about coming out with a professional APS-C mirrorless camera, why aren't they coming out with professional glass for that camera? Like I said, I know you can adapt EF glass, but there's just something different about having native glass, especially on a mirrorless system like Canon's EFM line. The whole selling point of it is it's nice and compact. So if you add an adapter plus big heavy L glass on top of that, you're kind of taken away from that. I don't know. I mean, I'm no professional, but I just feel like Canon, you could have done a little bit better with this. Overall, what do you guys think? Are you excited about any of these lenses? Are you excited about the 2 bodies that are rumored? Me personally, I think I'm going to have to pick up one of these 2 bodies when it comes out because it just offers everything that I've wanted to get out of my M50 that I just haven't been able to. Like I said, I'm definitely not going to get rid of my M50 anytime soon. It still is a great camera. And if you're thinking about picking one up, I would go ahead and do it. I mean, this camera is the cheapest it's ever been. I'm sure once the M50 Mark II comes out, you'll see another price drop, and this thing is still a great bang for your buck. But like I said, personally, I am looking to upgrade into a little bit more, and I think that either one of those cameras, the M50 Mark II or the M7, are going to be good options for me. I know there's options out there like the R5 and the R6, but your boy just doesn't have that type of bankroll right now. But yeah, let me know down in the comments, guys. Are you excited for the M50 Mark II or the M7? Are you excited about any of the new lenses that are rumored to come out? Let me know. Like I said, the bodies, in my opinion, A+, the lenses, C-. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really helps the channel grow. As always, I will be coming out with a video next week. And YouTube, until the next one, I'll see you later.